FRECA is surprisingly delivering one of the best title fights of the season this year, while the DTM had a record-breaking 9 title contenders going into their final weekend. And this week, both series ran together at the Hockenheim ring. Hello and welcome, fellow motorsports fans. After an unscheduled break last week, we're finally back to talk about all the feeder series action, some of the driver news, and we'll have a DTM segment at the end since I was at the Hockenheim ring for the final. Lots to cover, so let's go! We'll actually start at the Hockenheim ring, where I had the pleasure of watching my two favourite FRECA drivers win a race each, with Freddie Slater blitzing his way to the front on Saturday and Enzo Deligny managing the rather interrupted Sunday race to perfection. Not only was that quite satisfying in the results department, combined with Matteo de Palo bagging a pair of podiums, the title fight remains super tight going into the final round. Only Pedro Claro has just about slipped out of mathematical contention following a poor weekend for Van Amersfoort. We all know and love the chaos Monza can produce in these junior series, so really anything can happen from here. And it would be a sick storyline for all three of them, be it the perfect CV for Slater, the hero run out of nowhere for De Palo, or sweet redemption for Deligny. Definitely grab some popcorn for that one, guys. Other than that, truth be told, it was a bit tricky to follow everything trackside while trying to enjoy the sights and sounds, so I don't have too many talking points. But I do want to shout out James Egozzi for a rather successful debut with a P8 on Saturday. The more drivers have had a go in this number 74 RPM machine, the worse the initial stint from Enzo Peugeot looks in hindsight. It really has to be said, unfortunately. Egozzi does of course have experience on that level in Euro Cup 3, but still definitely looks like these RPM cars should be in the points more often than not when in capable hands. And a weird shout out that would have never happened had I not been watching trackside. Michael Beloff for overtaking like clockwork after getting fucked at the start of race 1. The end result may be terrible, but it was still a drive to be proud of. Getting a position on what felt like every single lap was quite beautiful to see, and a good reminder of how tense even the battle for P20 can be at times. On a similar level, but over in the UK, the GB3 title has been decided with a round to spare by Rodin ace Alex Ninovic. And not only did he win the title already, he did it in style. Outdriving a 10-second penalty in race 2 was incredible to witness. Man was untouchable all weekend long, and I'm hoping his absence of the first Formula 3 post-season tests this week is no weird foreshadowing. The only question mark in the title battle has to be Hi-Tech dropping the ball a bit compared to their rivals, considering the team doesn't have a single regular grid win this season. Not taking anything away from Ninovic, of course. Just saying, I doubt Fairclough was this much worse individually. Title battle aside, we also had some late season debuts over in this part of the world, with Liam McNeely, Kabir Anorak and Bart Harrison all joining the grid. Anorak was a bit of a backmarker, which sadly reminded me a lot of his lack of form in Italian F4 this year, but both Harrison and McNeely managed to really leave their mark on the series, both scoring a podium in the reverse grid race. And more importantly, McNeely has looked quick in the regular grid races as well, even if he has no results to show for it. Considering he has been nothing but fantastic all year long, this isn't exactly surprising. By the way, I did like the commentator saying he had some success in the USF 2000. Guys, he won every single race he was allowed to take part in. That's an easy mistake to make, of course, but I just wanted to remind everybody of that. His future might be a bit uncertain, but honestly I could see him as a title contender in both the USF Pro 2000s or GB3, depending on what he ends up doing. Two shoutouts to end on. One for Patricio Gonzalez for a pretty remarkable P6 in only his second ever weekend in the series. I really hope the brothers go for a full season campaign in 2026. And the other, of course, for Lucas Fluscher, switching from Agenti to Hull Speed and immediately getting rewarded with a controlled reverse grid victory and a really strong weekend overall. That looked a lot more like the Lucas Fluscher we've come to know and love in Spanish F4. Over in Singapore, where the penultimate round of F1 Academy, and while the title fight keeps raging on at the front, one girl did steal the headlines. Lia Block, keeping the momentum from her P2 in Zandvoort to finally take her maiden victory just as her F1 Academy career is coming to an end. We've said it after Zandvoort, she's probably the biggest what if on the grid when we're talking about who'd benefit the most from a third season. And I still firmly believe racing for a struggling ART outfit has also made her look a bit worse than she is. She's clearly still a bit error prone and all, but I don't think the team often allowed her to show how fast she can be. Either way, I sincerely hope she'll give single-seaters another go next season outside of F1 Academy, even if I'm not particularly optimistic about that actually happening. After a year of ups and downs for the frontrunners, the title battle has somehow come down to what we all expected before the season anyway. Maya Weug versus Doriane Parr, with both girls showing great speed and, more importantly, a mature approach to their races. Chloe Chambers and Alicia Pomowski may have started the season really strong, profiting from Campos' remarkable form as a team, but between unfortunate technical issues and simple driver errors, both have now dropped out of the fight for good. Honestly, I was surprised to see both, particularly Chambers, this much in the title fight in the first place, so I think this is more of a restoration of the natural order, if you will. Between Parr and Weug, you might as well flip a coin, I reckon. MP had the upper hand over Prema this time out, and Weug did make full use of that, but who knows how that dynamic will look in Las Vegas. Gun to my head, I'm still going to be betting on Doriane Parr, but I am really just hoping for one last epic duel between the two best drivers on the grid. We also had not one, but two new faces on the grid this weekend, with wildcard Lisa Billard and Megan Bruce replacing injured Ava Anagnostiadis. You may note that I am very fond of Billard and was thus delighted to see her show good pace right out the gate, even if it all went a bit to shit in the races, something we're unfortunately also used to from her. I reckon she still did more than enough to show that she would be an excellent addition to the grid next season, and I still believe she's quietly one of the best girls out there at her age. Bruce did more or less as I expected, I suppose. Drove clean races if I remember correctly, but didn't exactly light up the timing screen. Pretty much what she does in GB4 on the regular. Speaking of GB4, the smaller of the two F4 level series in the UK has surprisingly delivered one of the best title fights across the F1 ladder this season. F4 veteran Daniel Ginchard taking on the elite motorsports trio of Isaac Phelps, Ari Bansal and Alex Catoulas, even if the latter could not quite sustain his title challenge until the end. Ginchard did come into the final round as the favourite, but a stunning weekend from Bansal allowed the Indian driver to take the title in the end. I consider Bansal a contender of Newcomer of the Year, and we've talked about him again and again all season long. His main quality is not his, obviously also impressive, raw pace, but rather his ability to charge through the midfield when needed. From the season opener, across his British F4 cameo, all the way to the title decider here, he has pulled off key overtakes all year long. I am so looking forward to see where he ends up next season. If it happens to be British F4, we've got a key title favourite right there already. And of course, we gotta shout out Leandro Juncos for winning his first race of the year at the very last time of asking. There may have been a pretty notable gap between the lead four of the championship and the rest of the grid, but Juncos was still a regular frontrunner and definitely one of the better drivers in the championship. And, why I can't quite say the same for Dayton Coulthard, DC Sun has also found his first ever car racing victory this weekend, and unlike Juncos, he did it convincingly in a regular grid race, getting key overtakes done and managing the lead well once he had it. Douglas Motorsport clearly had a good package this weekend, as shown by returning guest starter Lucas Blakely, but Coulthard still made the most of it amongst his teammates, so credit where credit is due. Last but not least, Ava Dobson did secure the $50,000 for the best female driver on the grid and will thus probably end up in F1 Academy next season. Not gonna lie, I was hoping for a bit more performance from her this season, but I reckon she'll still hold her own in F1 Academy. Though, of course, there was a huge caveat in this story. Megan Bruce couldn't defend the lead in this particular battle because she was already racing in F1 Academy this weekend. I hope she does not rely on the extra cash, or she really shot herself in the foot here. I know there was a lot more racing at the conclusion of British F4 and the Janetta Juniors, more minor F4 series from all over the world and some spicy McLaren drama in F1. But I have not managed to watch it all yet, as I was busy with DTM, so I'll leave it at a quick congratulations to Rocco Coronel for a dominant Janetta Junior campaign, while we move on to the Hockenheim Ring. It has really been a fantastic weekend in Hockenheim, and while I am a little disappointed that this will likely be my only trackside race this year, at least I picked a fantastic one. Not only did we get great racing action and super satisfying results for me personally, we'll get to that in a second, but really the whole experience as a DTM viewer is great. Nothing like walking about in the paddock, accidentally getting in the way of some Porsche Cup cars or watching the FRECA boys roll to the pit lane. It really is all these little things that make racing special when trackside. Oh, and of course the beautiful, beautiful sound. It is a shame that the Audi/Lambo V10 will be gone for good next year, but damn, that Ford V8 is giving it a good go as a replacement acoustic highlight if you ask me. Listening to that bad boy accelerate out of corners is superior to most modern music in my humble opinion. Combine all of this with the fact that, unlike say F1 races, it really felt like an audience made up of almost exclusively hardcore racing fans. It was truly a great place to spend the weekend. But of course, we are here to talk about the actual racing, and while I don't usually cover anything other than single-seaters on the channel, I am of course an avid watcher of quite a lot more motorsports than that, and 2 of the DTM weekend series are high up on that list. Porsche Carrera Cup Germany, the most competitive of the national PCC series, is not only a guarantee for some straight-fire racing, it also ended in the best way possible for me personally. I've probably said it last year that I am a huge Robert de Haan fan, and with Larry ten Voorde not competing this season, the stage looked set for the young Dutchman to give the title a go. The only issue was Porsche Junior Alessandro Giretti, competing for the arguably better-looking CRT Schumacher squad to make life hard for de Haan. But in a brilliant turn of events, Robert de Haan did the double this weekend in rather stunning fashion to just about beat Giretti, while the latter got into a late race incident with his young and rather exciting, I might add, teammate Flynn Schuring. Safe to say, that brief 3-wide moment had me screaming in my seat like a little fangirl, and rightfully so, considering that move ultimately secured the title for de Haan. Watching the man have his victory photos afterwards was just the icing on the cake. The DTM itself was a truly mental affair, with 9 drivers coming into this weekend with a mathematical shot at the title. I might also be in the camp of people sad about the departure of Class 1 rules, but nobody can deny that this GT3 era is incredible in its own right. Not only does it feature a world-class grid stacked with factory aces, it is also the only championship in the world where these guys get to go at it without having to share the car with a co-driver. In many ways, this does feel a bit like a GT3 Drivers' World Championship, and I am all for it. Unfortunately for me, my 2 favorite drivers on the grid are Thomas Preining and Jules Gounod. Unfortunately, neither had a chance to really fight for it on Sunday. Preining did what he could with a stunning win on Saturday, but thus more or less took himself out of contention with the success ballast, while Gounod had a faulty pit stop to end the Saturday early. And he admittedly also made some interesting choices breaking into the hairpin on Sunday. Nevertheless, the fight was on for Sunday. Jack Aitken, René Rast, Lucas Auer, Ayhancan Güven and Maro Engel all still had pretty good odds, all things considered, setting the stage for an epic showdown. Watching Rast win one last title before his recently announced departure from the series would have been great, but alas, he did fall victim to carnage in the hairpin, though I think he was a little bit too salty about that afterwards personally. Matteo proved to have a sick package once again, this time with Güven leading the charge. Somehow, the entire season came down to a single battle for the lead between Güven and attacking Marco Wittmann. Wittmann himself would have needed a few miracles to end up with the title, but it was up to his move whether Güven or Auer would end up with the crown. And well, what can I say? You've probably all seen this move already. Wittmann pulled off a great last lap overtake only to immediately get repassed rather forcefully by Güven, securing the title for the Turkish driver to end what was a brilliant season with the ultimate high. And it all happened right in front of us. This clip should give you an indication of what I was feeling at the time.
Yes!
As you can see, I was rather pleased with that one. If it can't be the original Grello, then I am of course rooting for the other Mentai car. And what a move from Güven that was. I did nickname him the Turkish Crowbar as a result, but this is absolutely the kind of move you have to expect on a last lap showdown for the title, and Wittmann somehow felt a little too safe, I think. I feel like any karting driver would have known to white line that all the way to the apex, and yet Wittmann did not see it coming. Fair play for not wrecking though. Anyway, this race really was everything that top level racing should be about. If anyone is still looking for a low barrier to entry into the world of sports car racing, you really should start watching the DTM. Talking about Mentai cars, I could not end this segment without a brief shout out for Maurice Schuring and his maiden podium on Saturday. Guy has had a pretty stellar rookie season considering his limited experience in the car and might just start putting up a fight to his teammates if he'll return next year. Now I only need Tom Callender to do the same. It turns out 17 might be a tad too young to be on this grid, but it is only a matter of time until he will grow into that as well. I would really love to talk more about things like sports cars and motorcycles on this channel, and it is usually only limited time that is holding me back. I am considering to shuffle what series we talk about a bit more for next season though, so let me know how you'd feel about that. Until then, let's move on to the news. The news segment was supposed to be one big rundown of all the recent Formula 3 announcements, but honestly, after waiting another week, we are this close to having a full lineup confirmed anyway, so I might as well wait for a proper season preview. Safe to say though, the grid looks rather spicy already, considering most teams have secured at least one driver who I'd call a potential championship contender. We had news on the other side of the pond though that I'd like to briefly touch on. Dennis Hauger has been confirmed to make the step up to IndyCar with DCR, and the team will enter a technical partnership with Andretti as well. Surely not just convenient timing, but rather Andretti attempting what Penske is doing with AJ Foyt as a bit of a pseudo B team for their drivers. While I am still a bit surprised that Marcus Ericsson got to keep the Andretti seat over Hauger, I've got a feeling like the Norwegian nightmare will soon make them reconsider that decision. And in the second division, Nikita Johnson has been confirmed for a full season Indy NXT program in 2026. This is pretty big news in my opinion, considering Johnson did have a really good look at the European side of the ladder as well this season. And while neither his GB3 nor his F3 stints have been particularly successful, I would have still very much loved to see him tackle a proper F3 campaign in 2026. Recent results have at the very least not changed my mind about how talented this guy is. So while it is sad to see him return to NA this quickly, I've got no doubt he will put on a good show and definitely find himself in the Rookie of the Year battle. Unfortunately, I did not have the time to watch this weekend's Champions of the Future Shifter edition just yet, but our quick weekly karting report will definitely return next week when it is finally time for the Shifter portion of the Karting World Championship. I cannot tell you how excited I am for that one. And at the same time, we'll see some of the most exciting karting graduates give their F4 debut in Saudi F4 with Red Bull Junior's Chiara Battig and Scott Lindblom, as well as karting world champion Tibor Ramekes. And Ari Bansal is there too, so it'll be a really good one. Until then, it is your time to drop all of your thoughts and predictions down in the comments so we can get our lovely little discussion going. Maybe a preliminary top 3 for F3 2026 or your favorite for the world title. Either way, I thank you all for watching and I do hope to catch you in the next one.